Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. Going through some issues right now, but I'm trying to get that resolved. If you're looking for the books now, they might not be available, but hopefully, for those of you in the future, they will be.
Yeah, give this guy your support. Go over to his Patreon. Do all the stuff. Hit like. Do all the stuff to make the YouTube like him.
All right, but that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Right.
What we're here to talk about today is another build. Cameron has been busy building, and we've got a 5e build for you. This one's called Random Bullcrap. Go! This is he made this for the Thief Rogue.
Yes. So you notice, if you've seen any of my builds before, that I tend to favor magic-based classes mostly. I find them, one, to be the most fun to build because there's a lot of intricacies and, a lot of knobs to turn with different spells that you can take and different spells you can build off of. Whereas with weapon users, it's kind of just do the most damage, right?
I really like rogues because there's not a lot of knobs to turn.
That's fair. Well, today we've got a rogue that has just as many knobs as you want to turn.
Oh, my.
So, this is both a build and also a gateway into a side of 5e that not enough players are taking advantage of. So even if you're not necessarily interested in a rogue build today, keep listening because there's some stuff in here that any character can take advantage of with just the right little tools and things. So there might be stuff, if you're playing a campaign right now and you have a pre-established character, there might be some stuff from this you could actually use.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked ahead on this. This is on the Caverns and Creatures website. I kind of know what to expect, and yes, I have learned some things. So
yeah, and also we are starting to compile a couple of articles on your website about mundane items and different types of. I know Sam is doing a lot of magical items. And so if there's we're going to be talking about a lot of mundane items today. So if you want to get maybe even a deeper dive on those, check out the website.
Now I'm seeing comments. I'm sorry. I'm seeing comments pop up here on my phone, but I don't see them popping up on the YouTube channel on my computer screen.
Yeah, should be in the live chat thing.
Oh, there it is down there. All right. I'm still working out the kinks. Nobody ever accused me of being a tech whiz.
So yes, this is going to be this isn't a freestyle build. I've already built it, but we're just going to run through what we've got here. So you ready, Bob?
I am ready.
All right.
Random bullcrap, go.
So yes, this is going to be a custom origin race. We do that because, well, for a lot of different reasons. There's a feat that I want initially, and there's actually a couple of different feats that this build is going to want. And they're not going to be the feats that you normally see, actually. This is not going to be, we're taking sharpshooter, we're taking crossbow. No, this is not that character. We're doing some quite different things today. So, the feat that we'll take at level 1 is actually Skill Expert.
Wow, that's a feat I have never even thought about taking.
Yeah, well, I mean, it fits in with the rogue theme, right? Because we're experts at skills, right? But so rogues try to get 2 expertises. I want more. We're going to be doing as much with the mundane as possible, and skills are a great way to do stuff with the mundane. So, Skill Expert, we're going to take it for a +1 to dexterity. We'll get into the starting stats here in just a second. But mostly you need to know about that is that allows us to start the game with an 18 in dexterity, which is going to be very important for us.
That's the kind of rogue I play. I always lean heavy into dexterity. What skills are we getting here?
So we're going to we get 1 regular proficiency and we get 1 expertise. And we're actually upgrading one of our skills from normal to expertise. So we're going to get normal proficiency in the nature skill. And that's not a very popular one, I know. But trust me on this. We'll get into why later.
All right. Trusting you.
And the expertise that we're going to take is Perception. Now, Perception is the easily most called for skill roll in the game. Comes up constantly. It's very useful. Keeps your party from getting surprised, for one. That's a big deal. Perception is great.
is this? Are we taking this for general use, or is this specific to the build?
General use, but the fact that perception is so good, I want it on nearly every character I build.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if I don't explicitly say, and in a lot of builds I don't specify the skills because you can kind of do whatever you want, right? Take the ones that you want your character to excel at, and that's fine. But when we're building a rogue, well, skills are kind of a rogue's whole thing, so I am going to specify the skills.
Sounds good.
So for starting stats, we will take a 9 in strength, 18 in dexterity, 14 in constitution, and then a 13 in intelligence, a 13 in wisdom, and we will dump charisma and have an 8 in charisma.
Oh.
So, not a charismatic character, but that's fine. We have a bunch of other stuff we can do. But we are going to be, you will notice that we have a very balanced level of stats here. That's reason for that is because there is a multi-class that I want that requires intelligence. And so we'll get into that here in just a little bit.
Okay.
So we get starting skills as a rogue. So we're going to use our background and use a background that gets to toolkit proficiencies. We're going to be making a lot of use of toolkits in this build, which is not something that you do very often, and something that you should be doing very often.
Backgrounds are something that I almost never pay attention to.
Yeah, well, the great thing about backgrounds is they are fully customizable, rules as written. The point of backgrounds, the paragraph describing backgrounds in the player's handbook, specifically denotes that the backgrounds given, like actor or criminal, they're all just example backgrounds. You're able to take those backgrounds and customize them however you want. You can swap out the skill proficiencies, the language proficiencies, the tool proficiencies. You can swap them out however you want. They are not set in stone whatsoever. So when I say you're taking these things, this is not DM fiat, this is not anything else. This is all raw. So
okay.
We're going to grab alchemist tools and the poisoner's kit as our proficiencies. And
this is going.
Yep. And we're going to take, for skills, acrobatics. For the rogue thing, thieves are notoriously good at acrobatics. Sleight of hand, because we're going to be doing a little bit of stealing, because this character needs some money. So a little bit of stealing will go a long way. Perception, we had to grab this here in order to get expertise in it from skill expert. So we do have to actually grab perception here.
Okay, good.
And then we grab stealth, obviously, we're a rogue. And for the 2 expertises that we get from rogue, we'll select thieves tools and stealth.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep. So we'll be experts at stealth and perception and thieves tools, and we'll be good at a whole lot of other stuff.
All right, sounds good. Where are we going from here?
Well, I don't normally make too much mention of starting equipment, but on this character, again, because we're doing so much with mundane items, I have to. So
yeah. There's a lot of equipment in this build.
Yes.
I'm looking through it now.
I actually highly recommend that you take the gold buy option. You see, when you're making a character in 5th edition, you can either take the starting equipment that is listed in the player's handbook next to your class, which normally comprises of a little bit of gold, a couple of weapons, a backpack, or something like that.
Sure.
Right? You also have the option of just taking a starting gold, which is normally anywhere from like 50 to 100 gold, depending on your class. And I highly recommend you take that, because normally there's stuff that comes with your class that you don't really need. Like clerics don't actually need a priest's pack. There's nothing in there that's actually that useful. Okay. And it's like 25 gold worth of your budget that's used up in that. So it's wasted. So take the gold buy option, because we are going to be buying a decent amount of things for this build. At least it's at the beginning. As we get later on, money will become less necessary.
All right. Well, as a rogue, what do we start? What kind of gold are we starting out with?
I actually have to look that up because it's been so long.
I mean, I ask because if we're planning on stealing, I mean, how important is this? If we, could we just steal it instead?
Darn, this website doesn't actually list starting gold. Okay, well, I could figure that out in just a second, but the point being, it is helpful to have as much starting gold as possible.
Sure.
But what you're going to want to buy with that gold, hang on, I've almost found it. No, stop showing pop-ups. That's not helpful to me right now. And let's see. Rogue gets 4d4 times 10, which is an
Okay.
average of 100 gold pieces. So I recommend you take that because 100 gold pieces goes a really long way when you're just buying mundane equipment.
Yeah, sure.
So let's get into our actual levels because that's important.
Okay. Yeah. Slow down. I mean,
Yeah.
we spent all this time talking about why we should just take the gold. What are we buying?
Well, for your starting equipment, I recommend that you pick up studded leather armor for best AC, a set of thieves' tools because we do actually need to buy that, and a light crossbow and enough bolts for that.
Okay.
Now, also, you're going to want to actually pick up alchemist tools and a poisoner's kit at some point. The poisoner's kit is actually quite expensive. So if you can't swindle your DM into starting the game with that, you might have to wait a little bit on that, but that's fine because we're not going to be doing a ton with poisons right now anyway for a couple of levels, so that's okay.
Sure.
So, for Rogue,
yes.
We're going to go the first, I believe it is, 4 levels of our character in Rogue. And we're going to, of course, level 1, we get sneak attack, which we will be using. And we get, the expertise and all that stuff that we just talked about. Level 2, we get goodness, what is a feature called that lets you dash as a bonus action? That feature.
That's not cunning action, is it?
Cunning action, yes, thank you. That's it. You get cunning action, and that's also useful. What we're really here for is Rogue level 3. Now, we're going to be taking the Thief Rogue subclass. Now,
okay.
Thief is not an especially powerful subclass in most people's eyes. Its features are underwhelming on first glance. And you'll see we're only going to be taking advantage of its very first feature. And I don't have too many qualms about that because you don't get the second one until 9th level. And it's not even that good. So, Rogue subclass progression is bad, and they were going to fix it in the next edition, and then they doubled back on that. So now they're not going to fix it, which makes me very sad. But not.
All right, well, what is this first feature?
So we are going to be making most use of the Thieves enhancement to cunning action. So with the Thief, we are able to use a couple of new options for when we take our cunning action, which is, again, it's the bonus action to do something that would normally take an action.
Yes.
The biggest one, and really the only one that's actually that important, is the use an object action. Now, you may ask, what the heck is the use the object action? It's not something that just comes up. Well, it's not just something that comes up. Is it like, is it opening a bottle of water? Is it, what is it? So, you can normally, this is from the PHB, and I'm reading this almost verbatim. You normally interact with an object while doing something else, such as when you draw a sword as part of an attack. Now, though that is part of what is not called a free action, because that terminology doesn't exist in this edition, but it's a free action. You get one free action to draw a sword or do something super simple, open a door, things like that. If you want to do another one of those actions, like draw 2 swords, well, you actually have to spend an action to draw that second sword. Oh. Which is stupid. But the Thief Rogue does allow you to draw that second sword with the bonus action, but that's not what we're here for. You see, when an object requires your action for your use, you take the use an object action, and there are many objects that specify in their description that they take an action to use.
Sure.
So, this action is really helpful because it allows us to do things like throw a vial of acid as a bonus action.
I could see that being handy, yes.
Yeah. So, this is... Now, I should mention, this feature, very notably, the use an object action, does not cover magic items. You cannot use magic items. You can't, take a pearl off of a necklace of fireballs and throw it as a bonus action. You can't do that.
Sure.
So, we're, again, strictly sticking to mundane items here. Now, you might say, and you might notice this if you're a very, very, very studied player of this game, and have way too much time on your hands like I do, that throwing an acid vial and things like that are considered improvised weapons. Now, improvised weapons have their own kettle of fish to get into. Improvised weapons require you make an attack with them, and you don't get to add your proficiency bonus to them normally. So that's a problem unless you take the feat Tavern Brawler. Which
there's a lot in this build that I have previously just dismissed as like, who wants this crap?
Yeah. Well, listen, we're taking all of the crap. We're all of it. We want all of it, and we're going to make as much use of it as we can. So Tavern Brawler, we don't care about the grapple thing. We don't care about all that. All we care about is that it gives us proficiency with improvised weapons. That's it. That's the whole reason we're taking the feat, and that's the reason that we're going to Rogue 4, so we can get that feat as soon as possible.
Okay.
So, now it does also give us a modifier increase. We'll take a +1 to strength just because it helps with saving throws, and it bumps us up to a new modifier of 10, and it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. So,
what are our options here for the +1?
I think it's +1 to strength or Constitution, I think. Yeah. Maybe. So do what you want. It's fine. It's not going to make that big of an impact on the build. So, like I said, we're just here for the proficiency with improvised weapons. So, now you ask, what objects are we using? Like, okay, I mentioned acid vials. Okay, that makes sense. What does an acid vial do? Well, an acid vial does 2d6 damage, acid damage, when you throw it at somebody. But it still counts as a thrown weapon, which means you actually add your dexterity modifier to that damage. So it does 2d6 + 4.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's a ranged greatsword, which is pretty cool as a bonus action.
It is, yeah.
So what else is there? Well, there's Alchemist Fire. Alchemist Fire is, in my opinion, a little bit weaker, but it does, when you throw it on somebody, they take damage, fire damage, at the start of each of their turns. So it's like a continual burning effect.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, there are poisons. We just talked about that. There's going to be a lot of different poisons in the game. Even if you don't specifically notice them, this is the reason that we took the nature proficiency. You see, to harvest poisons from a fallen creature, it needs to be either dead or unconscious, you need to pass a nature check. Now, the DM determines the DC of that, but you have to pass a nature check, and if you pass it successfully, then you are able to harvest a vial of the poison. Now, Bob, you've played this game a lot. There's a lot of creatures with poison, aren't there?
Absolutely.
It comes up frequently. And there's a very easy way also to determine what that specific poison does. So take, for example, there's a bunch of different snakes, right, that have poison as part of their attack. Those poisons aren't specifically listed out in the DMG as to what they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually very easy to determine what any poison in the game does if it comes from a creature. So you just look at the
monster manual.
You check out the monster manual, or you have your DM do it.
Correct.
And your DM will just look at the monster manual. They will look at the portion of that creature that does the poison damage, and they'll just copy the poison damage over and make it an item. It'll have to do the same damage, have the same DC, have any secondary effects that poison had. So it all carries over into the new poison that you just harvested.
But all right, but this isn't like throwing a bottle of acid. This, poison. I mean, you're not using your fast hands for this. This is you're slipping stuff into people's food or something, or
not quite. There's a bunch of different kinds of poisons, and they work in different ways.
Okay.
There are 4 to be exact. There are contact, injury, ingestion, and gaseous poisons.
Okay.
So contact, you could just throw a vial of it on somebody.
Sure.
Injury, normally you coat a weapon or a piece of ammunition with it, and then you hit that person with that piece of ammunition, and they take the poison damage. Ingested is how you imagined it. That poison does have to be ingested in some way. And gaseous poisons are actually the best because you throw them and they fill a 5-foot cube, and any creature whose space touches that 5-foot cube is affected by the poison. if that creature breeds.
Now, can you take any poison and make it into any of these types, or
No, no, they are very specific.
all right? So like, I'm saying, how do you harvest gas?
Well, that one's a little bit more difficult. You probably have to buy gaseous poisons.
Okay.
But I mean, hey, maybe you come up with a situation where you can. But the majority of poisons that you're going to come across are going to be injury poisons. Those are the vast majority. And those are just going to be harvested from monsters. And there are other poisons, such as the probably the best poison is called Essence of Ether. It is a gaseous poison that you're probably not going to be able to harvest. But if you can get some, it can be thrown, and like I said, it's a gaseous poison, so it expands to a 5-foot cloud. Any creature that is inside that 5-foot cloud has to succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or they just fall unconscious.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, so just straight down. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. The best damage poison comes from the purple worm, which deals a whopping 12d6 damage on a DC 19 con save.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, that's real rough. And it is half damage on a save. So, and there's a bunch in between that. There is stuff like crawler poison, which can paralyze people if they fail to save. There's a lot of really nasty stuff in here. So that's poisons. There's a ton you can do with that. And so you can use, if it's something like a contact poison or a gaseous poison, you can use your fast hands to throw that. Or if it's an injury poison, you can use your fast hands to apply the poison to your weapon and then attack with your action.
Oh, all right. That seems unlikely, but yeah, sure. If that's in the rules.
Yep, it works. Yeah. So if you have those, use them. They're great. Another very simple thing and very cheap thing that you can get are ball bearings and caltrops.
Yeah, those are two things that I make quite a bit of use of.
Yeah,
a lot of my characters.
They both work similarly. Ball bearings can knock people prone. Caltrops permanently take away people's movement speed, which is fun. On a DC 15 deck save, which is really rough for a lot of creatures.
But is this? How good is this with the fast hands? I mean, when I think ball bearings and caltrops, I mean more so caltrops. I'm thinking about like hiding them somewhere and then getting somebody to chase me or something. Like if somebody sees you throw them right in front of them, they'll make efforts to avoid them. Yeah.
So your best bet is to put it in something like a doorway,
right?
And so that you're going to notice with this character. We're very Batman-esque. We have a tool belt.
Yeah.
And that tool belt has a lot of very specific tools on it. All these tools will not be useful in all scenarios, but some will be very useful in some scenarios.
Well, what I'm asking though is, at least for caltrops, like how is that? How do caltrops work with this build better than they work with any other character?
Because we can throw them with a bonus action.
Yes. But
yeah, rather than that. It could be very important. If you've got a bunch of people that need to come through a doorway, you can bonus action throw caltrops and also shoot on the same turn.
Yeah, all right, that works.
Yeah. So another great thing we can use those. We can use healer's kit. I'll come back to that one later. Put a pin in that one.
Okay.
Holy water. If you have a cleric in the party, they can make this during downtime using the spell Ceremony. And if you throw it on a fiend or undead, it acts the same as an acid vial, and it's cheaper to make. So if you're in an undead-heavy campaign or fiend-heavy campaign, or if you just know you're going to run into some, have your cleric in the party make you a bunch of vials of holy water.
Sure.
There are hunting traps, which work similarly to caltrops. You put that in a doorway, you can arm it, set it and arm it with a bonus action, then back up and say, yeah, come on through the door. What you going to do now?
Is this similar to the snare spell?
Yeah, except actually useful. Sometimes.
Not just a way to get rid of excess rope.
Yeah. One of my favorites, and this one's really great with party teamwork, is the oil flask.
Oh, and that's everybody's favorite.
Yeah, oil flasks are super cheap. And when you throw it on somebody, it covers them, and they take an extra 5 fire damage whenever they take fire damage. So, probably the first spell that comes to your mind might be Scorching Ray, which deals 3 instances of fire damage. So,
yeah, I was thinking Firebolt, but yeah.
Yeah, that too. So if you've got a pyromancer sorcerer in your party, this one might be really fun. We don't have any way of inherently dealing fire damage ourselves besides Alchemist Fire, but
Torch.
Yeah. So it's teamwork, right?
Yeah. I noticed Torch didn't make your list here.
No, I mean we could light a torch. We could light our torch with a bonus action.
Sure.
Great. Sure. Yeah.
Yep. That's fire.
It is, but torches don't inherently have any rules as written means to do damage, and I have to write these builds rules as written.
Okay.
So, one very interesting one is, and this one also, I guess I did kind of put torch on here, is a plant called the Waka Nut. This is from a campaign-specific book, so you may not have access to this in your campaign. But if your DM is loose and likes to play with fun things, this emits a magical light when used, and that's not super special effect, except for the fact that it does eliminate areas of darkness created by the darkness spell.
Okay.
So again, this is another part of our utility belt. You can pull that out with the one time darkness comes up in your campaign, and everyone will be very impressed by your ingenuity. Another great example is a mirror. A mirror can be used to reverse the gaze of a basilisk or Medusa, which could make them petrify themselves.
All right, that's a thing, yeah.
Yeah, you could do that with a bonus action. That's powerful. There's the...
If you're getting them to petrify themselves, then that's just as good as an action. I mean, it's not
right. Yeah,
you really need the extra action there.
No, that's fair. I'll give you that one. There's you could just toss a bag of flour on somebody, on an invisible creature. And now the creature's not invisible anymore. Flour is also extremely flammable. So do with that what you will. And even explosive at times. There are explosives, to stay on that theme. There's a lot of different explosives. There's regular bombs, sticks of dynamite. The most powerful one is a catapult munition, which deals fireball damage in fireball area.
Oh.
So, yeah, very good.
Wait, slow down. Now, when you're saying catapult munitions, are you talking about giant rocks that you load into catapults?
No, they're listed as like cannonball size, like you could fit in 2 hands.
All right. So what are you doing with them?
Throwing it as a bonus action. You're allowed to throw
this
them.
Heavy-ass cannonball.
Yes.
How far can you throw that?
20. I think the range on it is 20 feet. So, granted, that means when you throw it, it is a 20-foot radius.
Yes.
It's explosion. So, you're on the very edge of the explosion when you throw it, but you are outside of the explosion.
Okay, that...
Yes, it's silly.
Yes,
I agree.
This is not how I understand catapults to work.
And then there is one very specific item called the Tangler Grenade, which does not do damage. Instead, it imitates the web spell. Which, if you know me, I'm very high on the web spell. And this is a web spell without concentration.
That's good.
So, yeah. And then the last part that I'll mention, and this is less impactful that we can use it as a bonus action, except for a couple of them. But drugs.
Yay.
D&D is surprisingly full of drugs if you will just dig a little bit into different source books and things like that. Drugs everywhere. And a lot of them have those beneficial and non-beneficial effects. But
I remember you've covered a couple of these in the in our mundane items collection.
A lot of them will threaten to inflict the poison condition on you. But there's a great thing. You could just take. Let's see. Let me make sure I got the right thing. both. Well, wild root is a drug that can be used to just remove the poison condition. So that removes any downside of any drugs you took that force the poison condition. And there are also Thiki root and cinderberries, which grant you advantage on saves against poison. So you can
All right.
mitigate a lot of the bad stuff from a lot of these drugs. I won't go into all of it here because we're already running very long.
All right, so we've got all of these great ways to use all of these mundane items, right? But
Yes.
right now we're maybe, depending on your campaign, having some trouble actually finding all of these items. So because of that, and because of the fact that gold, despite how some people see it in D&D, is actually not infinite, we're going to be taking just a couple of wizard levels.
That really depends on the campaign, I think.
It does, but it's actually not just the gold that we're worried about here. It's also the availability of some items.
Sure.
So, for that reason, we're going to be taking wizard levels, specifically Conjuration Wizard.
Uh-oh.
So, in my opinion, and in the opinion of some others in the optimization community, Minor Conjuration, which is the Conjuration Wizard's second level feature, is one of, if not the strongest low-level features in the entire game.
All right, well, explain it to me.
So, what it does is it allows us to conjure any item that fits in, I believe, a 3x3 cube.
That's pretty
and
good.
Isn't magical, and isn't like you can't. Interesting thing, you can conjure a vial of poison. There's arguments as to whether or not you could conjure the vial and the poison, or if you needed a vial and then you conjure the poison into it.
Okay.
Either way, it doesn't matter. Just stock up on vials.
Sure.
But what you can't do is you can't create a bag of ball bearings.
All right, so this specifically.
Well, he doesn't say that specifically, but a bag of ball bearings is very specifically multiple items, right?
Oh, right.
So we are creating one item. Now,
so you could create one ball bearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Which might be useful. You know, maybe you can drop it down a well, see how. Yeah. So there is a little bit of limitation here as to what we can create. So it has to be, kind of small, and it has to be, just one constituent item. But that still opens up the door to a lot of things.
Let me ask you this. Going back to the vial of poison.
Yeah.
Now, let's say you've got a bunch of vials. Could you just conjure up a 3x3 foot cube of poison?
So, yes, but it wouldn't help you. Let's get into the drawbacks of this feature.
Okay.
So, once you conjure something, if you conjure something else, the last thing you conjure disappears. So you can only have one thing conjured at a time.
Sure.
Secondly, if the conjured item deals any damage, it disappears.
Ah, all right. Well,
so
much for that idea.
That first vial of poison that you used will deal damage, but now the rest of your poison's gone.
All right. How about this? You conjure up like this giant cube of poison.
Yeah.
You put it in everybody's meals, and then you say, "All right, everybody," or you put it in their drinks, and then you make a toast.
Yeah.
Huh?
I see where you're going, and I don't have an immediate disagreement with it. So if I was your DM, I'd say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Maybe a little bit of DM interpretation there, but rules as written, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that works. So yeah, that's the feature. That's what it lets us do. Now it takes an action to create something. So what that means with fast hands is we could take an action to create something and then a bonus action to use it on the same turn. Okay. If we wanted to spend our turn that way. And sometimes we will, depending on, think about it this way. If you're spending an action to conjure a catapult munition and then a bonus action to throw it, well, then that's just spending an action to cast fireball. And we're all happy with that.
Sure.
So
as ridiculous as that is.
It is ridiculous, and it does work. Now, the only constituent with minor conjuration is that we have to have seen the item before. So, for that reason, your character is going to want to be searching out these types of items. You don't ever have to actually buy any of them either. You just have to have seen it. So you can go up to that shady, back alley dealer, ask for poisons, and then he'll pull out his little tray, and you just see all of them. And you don't have to buy anything. Just walk away. You've got all the information you need.
All right. Yeah.
So that's going to be a little side quest for your character. You're going to be looking to try and find as many of these interesting and unique mundane items as possible, then conjuring them up later. You don't have to actually buy them. You don't actually have to obtain them. You just have to have seen it.
Yeah, that I really like how you put these two together. This
Yeah.
I'm seeing the build come together.
Yeah. So with that, we are a wizard with this, so it means we're going to get some spells. Now, there's a theme that I kind of wanted to stick to with this character. I wanted this character to feel as unmagical as possible, even though we're taking wizard levels. And I know that's a bit of a misnomer. I get that. If I wanted to feel as unmagical as possible, I'd just, stay straight road. But that means I took spells, or I tried to take spells that either fit exactly what a rogue should be doing, or perhaps mimic what mundane items could do. So, for these first couple of levels, I took a lot of, really great quality of life spells. I took, things like shield and invisibility. Spells that are really, really good for a rogue to have.
Absolutely.
Every rogue loves to have invisibility. I also grabbed Find Familiar because familiars with rogues are really, really good. Like, specifically.
And in general, yeah.
Yeah. And I wanted to include spells like Longstrider and maybe even Jump, just to lean into the fantasy more. We're not super dependent on the spells here is what I'm trying to get across. I'm trying not to be super dependent on them. You can take all the fantastic spells if you want to. But this character, in my eyes, isn't relying on those things. So, we're not going to take web. We have Tangler grenades. We're not going to take, some of these spells because we're not going to take, certain spells because we have mundane items that replicate them. And sometimes, don't use.
And also, I mean, it's good role playing as well. You're coming at this from the point of a rogue who wants to. This is what he knows. He's on the streets. He's trying to, burgle places and stuff. He's taking wizard levels to enhance that.
Yeah, so we take spells like Spider Climb.
Right.
The things like that. It's fun. Lean into your fantasy sometimes, especially when we've got a foundation that's strong enough. When you have a foundation that's strong enough, you're allowed to take, little things to fulfill your fantasy.
Sure.
So now I am taking us to wizard level 4 because I want a feat. And this is another feat that you'll never see me take again. It's Healer.
Healer? Oh my goodness.
Yes. So to refresh your memory, because you've probably read Healer once and then forgot it existed, Healer allows you to use a medicine kit, which we don't actually have to have proficiency in. It's weird. You don't actually have to have proficiency in a medicine kit to use it. You just use it. But it allows us to use it to actually heal people for a little bit more than what a Cure Wounds would do. Now, that alone is fine as a feat if your party has literally no healing whatsoever, right? Because most parties just have somebody who can cast Healing Word and get people off of 0, right? So that's really all you need healing for. Well, this allows us, remember, with fast hands, to use it as a bonus action.
So that now, Cure Wounds becomes Healing Word.
It does.
Except they still need to be right there in their face.
Yes, you do still need to be right next to them. But it allows us to play sort of a battlefield medic kind of strategy, which is neat. And we're doing it all through mundane stuff. We're not, using magic to heal people. We're just running over there, slapping a Band-Aid on there and saying, keep moving, buddy. Pick that sword back up. It's unique. It's not like how other characters get to play.
Sure.
And so, in essence, these 8 levels are, and really only 6 levels, because we really just needed the 2 levels of Wizard to get Minor Conjuration. That's the build. You go from that, you build your repertoire on more mundane items that you're collecting knowledge of that you can conjure. It's almost like a second spell book that you get to have. Because it's things that you can just pull out of your mind and use. You need an acid vial to melt the lock on the door. Well, you got it. Do you need, do you see the key on the guard's keychain? Okay, you have that key now. Like, there's so many things that you can do with this. And where you take the character from here is really up to you. If you want some suggestions, you can obviously just take more rogue levels. It gives you more sneak attack for more damage. You eventually get evasion and reliable talent and all the other rogue stuff that you get at higher levels. More wizard levels obviously gives you more spells if you want to lean into that. There's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just not where I wanted to take the character, but nothing wrong with that. A dip into the cleric, specifically the knowledge cleric, would be neat. And remember, we have a high enough wisdom to take a dip into cleric. I took that high enough wisdom for you to be able to take resilient wisdom eventually, which you would probably take at level 12. But knowledge cleric gives you 2 more expertises, and you can use it to gain expertise in nature if you've been having trouble harvesting poisons.
Okay.
There's an argument to go fighter, because what you can do with fighter is very fun. So if you've been able to collect a couple of catapult munitions, a fighter multi-class would allow us to action, throw, action surge, throw, bonus action, throw. That's 3 fireballs in 1 turn. Not even a sorcerer can do that.
This fighter juggling cannonballs.
Yes.
Hurling them one by one.
Yes. So, listen, again, it is the list of mundane items is a pathway to some skills that many consider, dubious at best.
Yeah.
But it's raw. Its rules is written, and it does work. There's you can also go artificer if you want to lean more into the tool proficiency side of things. They get expertise in tools, which is really fun. And the infiltrator armor actually has a lot of enhancements to your stealth if you want to lean into that as a rogue. There's a couple of general recommendations. Like I said, pick up resilient wisdom at your next feat opportunity. You could go in, if you go into a class that grants you extra attack, then picking up sharpshooter is not a bad idea. We're not leaning into it because we're getting our damage through these mundane items. We don't actually need sharpshooter because we're only making the 1 attack per turn. It's not that impactful anyway. So we actually forgo sharpshooter. But if you take enough levels to get extra attack, you might want sharpshooter at that point.
Yeah. I'm having trouble getting it. Like, all right, if I throw a bullet at you, that's not the same as firing out of a gun. Like,
it's an explosive.
Catapult munitions, I have to assume, are meant to be fired from a catapult.
It's an explosive.
All right.
It rules is written. It works.
All right.
I know. I get what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, by the way. It is silly, but it does work.
All right.
And that's all I care about.
Yeah.
I mean, we presented a build that threw crossbows around, didn't shoot them, threw them.
That's true. That's true. It's not getting sillier than that.
I don't think I have a difficult time imagining a build sillier than that. But and the other great thing about this build,
that's something, go back and look at what was that, the Path of the Giant Barbarian?
Yeah, literally just titled "It's Raw."
It's raw. If you want a silly build, go check out that video.
Yeah. So yeah, like the other great thing I love conceptually about this, and if maybe it helps you envision it a little bit more with the minor conjuration, it's literally just hammer space from Looney Tunes. You just pull it out and you got it.
Yeah.
That's how I imagine it. This is literally Bugs Bunny reaching behind him, pulling out a giant mallet and whacking Elmer Fudd with it. Except we're doing with acid vials and explosives and drugs and poisons.
Also, I mean, that's cartoon logic. This is actual magic.
Yeah.
Which I don't need to justify that. It's magic. That's what magic is.
Fair. That's fair. I know that you've had some episodes recently where Sam has felt the need to justify
Yeah, I'm the one defending it.
Yeah, that's fair. I get it.
It's magic. I'm okay with that.
So yeah, That's really, at this point, you can take the build in whatever direction you want after this. You are going to have a ton of fun. Personally, I haven't gotten a chance to play this character yet. I really want to. Talk to your DM before you play a character like this, though, that's relying on so many things in the DM's world. Your DM may not have all of these things planned out in their world. They may not have, a system for, buying poisons and things like that. They may not have a world where explosives are a thing, So talk to your DM and make sure that these things are okay. Go over with him what is okay, what isn't, because some of these things, I will admit, are kind of broken.
Yeah.
On a balance level, keep in mind, you can do the whole 2 fireballs in 1 turn thing at level 6. But less than that, actually. You could technically do it at level 3 if you had enough catapult munitions on you.
Yeah.
So this character potentially has the most damage output at low levels that I've ever created.
All right, good for you.
If you can find the items to do it. So,
Catapult munitions are us.
Yeah, and purple worm poison.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a big one too. 12d6 damage. Half on a DC 19 save. And real quick, I'll mention, since we have minor conjuration, there are so many cool poisons in this game. So many. There's one called Midnight Tears that is ingestion poison, so you have to sneak it into somebody's drink. So that's a little fun game. Then it doesn't take effect until midnight that night, and then it kills them.
All right.
So it's like the perfect crime, right?
Sure.
So there's so much cool stuff in this game that doesn't get used very often, and the point of this build is to be able to use these things. Take the stuff that you don't interact with a ton. You don't interact with mundane items all that frequently, right? You keep 50 feet of rope on you at all times, because all good adventurers do that, apparently. But aside from that,
I use the rope.
I do use the rope too. Yeah, it actually comes in very handy. Keep rope on you. It's very helpful. Keep more than 50 feet of rope, maybe.
Especially if you take the snare spell.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Don't take the snare spell.
Don't take the snare spell. You can make snares yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
This character would be very good at making snares.
And then when the snares are used, you get to keep the rope.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway, that's the build. I hope people like it. And if you don't play this build exactly, take something from it. Take harvesting poisons from it. Take, getting explosives from it. Take a 2-level dip of Conjuration Wizard to get minor conjuration. And I promise you, your character will be better for it.
Yeah.
It's one of the best 2-level dips in the entire game. No holds barred. It's great.
All right. Well, that was a fun one. Thank you. Thank you for providing that. And thank you for joining me on here.
Glad to be here. And if you like more of me, I am now streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/PrincePhantom. You can find me there. I stream strategy video games normally. I specifically a series called Fire Emblem, which actually plays a lot like D&D Combat, which is kind of interesting, grid-based and all that. So if you're interested in stuff like that, and if you just want to hang out and talk, we can even talk D&D stuff. Check me out.
All right. I'll link that down in the description.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Cameron. And thank you, dear viewers, for tuning in. And look out for more builds in the future.
Yep.
Like and subscribe and all that. Goodbye.
Yeah, do all that stuff. Bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.